Hello, DSUS shareholders. This is Carrie Thacker. It is June 4th, 2015, 4:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have with me CEO, President of, Drone Services USA, Mr. Joel Brito. Say hello, Joel.
Howdy.
And I have also CTO of Drone Services, Mr. Ewan Ramsey. Say hello, Ewan.
Hi there all.
And we also have the director, James C. O'Mara, and he's also the owner of NASS. Say hello, Jim.
Good day. This is Jim. How are you?
All right, very good. So the questions have been selected that were sent in by the shareholders, and the gentlemen are going to go back and forth answering them. And when they have finished answering those questions, I'm going to take over, at which point I will discuss the present issues with the trading as well as some Series B matters, and we'll go from there. All right, so whoever wants to start?
I'll kick off. It's Ewan here again. I'll be asking the questions and answering some of them as well. So I think we're just going to go straight into the questions. Someone submitted the following question. After researching the specification of your Pro drone platforms, it's a no-brainer that DSUS drones are of a much higher engineering quality than other drones that I can buy off the shelf or from other sellers. Do you have any plans to make a similar platform available to governments or other like buyers only?
This is Joel, CEO. The answer is yes. The Pro Search and Pro Cargo were both designed with government and commercial industrial applications in mind. These are a little high-end for the average consumer. These are workhorses. These are meant to be used day in, day out, very ruggedized. These are, military, commercial, industrial application UAVs.
Cool. I think the only other thing to add as well, industrial covers quite a wide range of possible topics. Now, the ones we've been specifically looking at are, say, infrastructure, inspections, dams, cabling, pipelines, these types of things. So it's keen to point out that we're very much in the stage that we want to make sure that we are making a product which is applicable to these markets. So we're very keen to hear what people are saying about them, and obviously we have keen dialogue with our customers about how this is actually working. Now, anyway,
correct.
If we move on to
electrical inspection, wind turbine, and agriculture. They're claiming, I see varying numbers on a daily basis, but up to $75 billion in, thermal drones for agriculture in the coming, 4 or 5 years.
Great stuff. Okay. The next question I've got on my list here is, will or does the company work with other drone manufacturers supplying IR, distro, thermal cameras to use on more well-known drones like the Phantom? So it's probably one for you, Joel, I think.
Yes, I'll take this. So currently, yes, I've been selling cameras to independent builders. People using their proprietary platform, obviously they need a thermal camera. There's very few choices on the market. They are coming to me to supply them with the cameras. I haven't announced this yet. I guess I can mention it. We are putting our camera on a Phantom. We're putting it on a Phantom 3. The reason is there's another company that currently does this, and they're pulling in over $10 million a year on this specific application alone. So this is something we are going after.
Good stuff. Okay. Next question, is Mr. Velotis still an officer for the company, like the rumors say, or is he really a consultant for the company who's going to help the company with maritime companies? If so, in what way can DSUS do business with this industry? So basically, they're referring to what our plans are in the maritime area. So this should be quite interesting because I know we've talked about this in quite good depth. So I'll let you lead. Yeah.
So I currently, Peter does not hold a officer or director position. He is strictly a consultant on an as-needed basis. If I need to ask him something, I call him up. He really has no actual position in the company. He resigned, and I became the CEO. That happened a while ago now. And I'm a real person. I'm here. I know that's a question a lot of people have been asking. Who is Joel? I'm Joel. So as for how the maritime industry comes into this, and it's actually it ties in very, very well. So thermal cameras is where it ties in. Thermal cameras are used on cruise ships currently. We're looking to expand that. The application is the power systems for these. The engineering rooms, they run off of 15,000-volt electricity, which turns it into hydraulic power, which powers the boat. You obviously don't want a person being in harm's way down there. So you use thermal cameras to monitor these engineering rooms, engine compartments, and shoot a real-time feed up to the captain's quarters. You can real-time monitor what's going on down there. There are many other applications. We do plan on putting drones on these cruise ships as tourism attraction, so to say. So when they fly out to a location, most cruise ships, the larger ones, have a big screen, a monitor in them. So they could be flying around, showing the animals and wildlife and projecting it into the stadium bleachers so people can watch what's going on in the exotic location they're currently at.
It's probably also worth mentioning that we don't necessarily limit ourselves to the conventional model of drones, in that it isn't just about the multi-rotors. So we have been looking at submarine-style tourism drones, mainly for the Caribbean sector. So where the waters can support this type of viewing and type of application. So that's also one that we're looking at as well. And we think there's a lot of scope in that area. So we're going to hear more about that in the future.
Yes, they would be doing underwater, checking out fish and wildlife and projecting it onto the screens on the boat so people can view that. This is all brand new. That's why most people couldn't tie the things together. It's a great application. We're going to be some of the first ones offering these technologies.
Great stuff. Okay, next question. Does DSUS or its affiliates write the software all of the drone operations? Right. Okay. I'll field this one. There's multiple. There's a couple of answers to this particular question. The simplest one is the Pro Cargo system, the cargo system that we have in place, the Pro Cargo 4 and the Pro Cargo 8. The software that is used the specifications were written by me, but they are passed over to the Arducopter development team. If you may not be aware, the flight controller that we use is open source. The software that's based on there is open source. Now, there's a number of commercial advantages to using this particular open source platform, which if anyone wants to talk to me about them, I'm happy to do so offline. So the specifications were written by us but implemented by another. Now, this is only one facet of where we're going with this. Now, some of you may have already heard about our other platform that we're working on called the Pro X. Now, the Pro X is very much a software-driven product. It's basically enabling internet-enabled drones. Now, we have a number of features that we're building into this. I won't divulge too much at the moment, but safe to say that the software that we will be writing for this will be proprietary. It will be our own, and where applicable, we shall be patenting or copywriting at least certain segments of that. Now, this is a long-term development, and it kind of comes on to one of the questions later about long-term trends. But for the moment, I think that answers the question.
Can you briefly explain API SDK and what open source is?
Yeah, the open source is where the programs themselves are written by developers who, they can be paid for it, but often are working for free. It's very much a community-driven effort on the understanding that open source cannot be locked down and remains completely open. So at any time, anyone can download the source code for the software modify it for their own means and use it in that case. Now, there are some limitations on some of the open source stuff. So I think there's some, you're not allowed to use it in military platforms or things like this. But for civilian use, the software is free to use. It has the general usage agreement applied to it, which everyone adheres to. It's not very particularly restrictive, so we can use this for our own means. If we wanted to, and if we saw a need for doing so, we could easily modify our own version of the code and use it for ourselves. And the license completely allows us to do that. That's not a problem.
Right.
So there are a number of advantages to open source. For one, there's a cost aspect to it. It doesn't cost us anything. There's a very deep development pool available. There's a lot of guys experienced in specific assets of this. So there are guys who can build the flight models. There's guys who do the autonomous functions, and that's their life's work, and they do a very good job of it.
Right.
The other advantage as well, of course, is the development cycles are quite short. So more often than not, we will gain features in our flight controllers before our competitors will be. So if our competitors are based on, say, DJI or Zero UAV or one of these other guys, we will certainly have the features ahead of them before they do. In fact, many of the features that we've seen in the Articopter platform have been around long before any of the DJI-style features have been available. So,
right. So what this allows us to do is custom tailor to every specific application. If a power line inspection company requires a little tweak, that can easily be made.
That's right. And we have been looking at a specific example, actually, for one of the surveying features that we've been looking at is for long range applications. So these are suitable for roads, for rail, for pipeline, for these types of things, where often than not, the conventional flight models don't support landing at different heights and altitudes. It sounds like a really silly type of thing to appear, but funnily enough, not an awful lot of the flight controls can do this. Now, it allows us to actually write our own code to support this. So it allows us to do inspections far more efficiently than would be conventionally possible. So, for example, you can inspect an entire section of road or pipeline or train line or whatever you're going to be inspecting, power line. Normally, the workflow is you fly out, you go as far as you can with your range and capacity, and you return because you know you can land correctly. By allowing a flexible landing model at the far end, it allows us to do one-way trips. Now, this doubles the efficiency of the inspection crew. Simple as that, just by a very simple software change. So at the moment, it's very much a work in progress, but it's something that's available if someone chooses to do so. So
yes, that will be great for pipeline applications where, the pipeline is multiple miles long and they're not just trying to fly a little section and come back. They're continuing forward. That's
right. That's correct. So, and there have been known problems where your destination, your landing point at your destination could be 100 meters higher or lower than your starting altitude, and there have been known problems with other drones which are unable to cope with this change in geography. So that's one of the things we're looking at, and it's very much our ethos to make sure that the particular applications that we have in mind, that it's not just a case of building the shiniest object in the world, it's making sure that the workflow can be supported by the guys going to be using the equipment. So where possible, we work with existing workflows, and we make the drones make the workflow rather than change the workflow to match the drone. So we do what we can to make things better for our customers in that respect. So this is just one of the things we do. Anyway, that was a long response to that particular question. Sorry, I do this all the time. Yes, I should actually schedule more time.
Okay. It's all right, the long-winded Glaswegians.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'll take the next one.
This one, we can probably make this one quite short. Right. How many drones and cameras can you manufacture in 1 week at the new facility? Is the next question.
Yeah. So the new facility, we do have two facilities. The first facility in Florida is going to concentrate specifically on the ProSearch XLF. That is the thermal drone with a long flight capacity that's made for search and rescue teams, police, fire department, and that. So we are utilizing the Texas facility for the Pro Cargo. That is the platform that Ewan himself designed. And currently that facility, we can run 75 a week out of there. Remember, these are, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 platforms, depending what options they put onto them. We can put a lot of production out of that facility. And camera-wise, several hundred cameras a week. Obviously, a camera is a very small component. It doesn't have multiple hundreds of working parts like a complete UAV does.
Okay.
And Jim, you want to comment on the patented light? How many can be produced in a week?
Well, we can make probably about 10,000 a month without any problem at all, and probably exceed your production capacity. But the market for the strobe light is tremendous. All drones in the very near future are going to be required. It's going to be mandatory that they have a warning light of some sort on there. Our patented LED strobe light has the advantage over anything out there because our efficiency on battery consumption will not affect flight time and duration, or will it affect payload? It weighs approximately 8 to 10 grams. So that's our big advantage, and of course we're patented. Anybody else can make a strobe light, but they're going to use twice as much power to generate the same amount of light. That's our big advantage. We have 2 hard patents on it. Drone Services has a 17% margin as a key distributor. I believe this is going to be one of the best income-generating platforms in volume because it goes beyond our capacity and production capability. We're basically going to be selling LED strobe lights to the world.
Correct. And the main benefit to this is power consumption is so low. Flight time is everything in the drone world. The least power the components use, the longer your flight times, and the longer you can keep the platform in the air, the better. That's the competition this industry is in right now. Who can keep them in the air the longest?
That's it. You don't want to take away flight time because that's basically what the attraction of the drone industry is. But you still have to address safety issues. And I see safety lagging a little bit on the drones, but I see the insurance companies driving this mandate. It's only going to, we just had one, and some guy doing a performance grabbed the drone and cut his fingers all to heck. That could have been a grandmother coming out of a shopping center. You're only going to take a couple of those, and the insurance companies, underwriters are going to drive the mandate process. And, of course, the FAA is going to go, it's a great idea. Let's mandate that on all drones. So it's only a matter of time. We're in a good position, and we're ready to meet that demand.
I personally use the product and love it. It's very easy to identify, where you're at in the air. If you were to look down at your screen, look back up, there it is.
It certainly aids from a performance advantage. Some of as a European, we have slightly different regulations to the US, and one of our mandates within the European regulations, especially Switzerland and Germany and these guys, is an emphasis on visual line of sight as one of the requirements for commercial use, at least. You have exceptions to this, but you can obtain them quite easily. But the general rule is line of sight only, really. Now, with one of these adapted and added to a drone, you add a significant range to your visual line of sight capability. So that's one thing to bear in mind. So you can really push out a lot further on visual line of sight, at least, than you would be normally. So to some customers, that's an advantage. So it's good news all round, really.
And Jim, what type of distances can you see just with a bare eye, no binoculars, something like that? How far can you see these strobes from?
All right. It was tested by a government agency at 5 nautical miles at night. I personally have airborne reports of 10 miles at night. Daytime is difficult because on a bright day in the desert with the sun at your back, you probably wouldn't see it. But on a dusky day or when the drone gets below the horizon with a background and disappears into the camouflage, you might say, that's when the strobe light really works.
It works very well in northern hemispheres where I am, where a lot of the days we have a lot of cloud cover, maybe overcast completely, and during the day it's extremely effective. So in these types of environments where it's not raining, but it is very overcast and very dark, and in the winter months it's even better still. So yeah. So
I'm new to the drone business. I'm not new to search and rescue. I've got 40 years of search and rescue experience, and that's one thing I wanted to mention was a search and rescue platform like the ProSearch has to be visible to the people you're searching for so they can make an attempt to attract your attention. That's one of the most important things about a search and rescue mission. You have to let the people know that you're looking for them, so they'll come out of their woods or come out of their cave or do whatever they do. And
it's also good for the incident managers as well, because in a complex scenario, it's always good to know where the drone is.
Sure.
Jim, I have a quick question. Roundabout, how much does it cost per hour for a helicopter with a pilot, a co-pilot, jet fuel? How much are they currently spending in search and rescue per hour in a traditional platform?
I would say that's about $2,500 an hour would be at today's minimum with the insurance costs that we have today. I got out of aviation about 8 years ago, so it was approaching that at that time. I know the state of Alaska just retired their 3 police helicopters because they just simply can't afford in the budget with the low oil prices now to operate anymore. And the drone's going to fit right into that. So
absolutely. The upfront cost is drastically lower, and the cost per use is nearly nothing.
You could pay for a ProSearch XLF with one mission.
Absolutely.
Yeah, without any problem at all.
Well, I'll bring it back onto the subject. While we're on the topic, actually, you touched on your experience, Jim. Do you want to? One of the questions here is we're talking about our different backgrounds. So do you maybe want to just expand on your background a little more? You say you've been search and rescue for 40 years.
I went to Alaska I got out of the Marine Corps, and I went to Alaska in 1971, and I started a flying service in a remote village with 28 people. And it grew from there. I've got 26,000 hours of flight time in Alaska, and I would say probably half of that was looking for somebody or looking for a good place to spend the night. So I got a lot of observing time, and we did the oil spill for Exxon Valdez. We got into heavy lift cargo. We used the de Havilland Buffalo and the de Havilland Caribou, servicing the mining camps, and we did a lot of medevac work. I'm an aircraft mechanic, and that's probably what kept the things in the air. And when I retired from flying, I was trying to figure out what to do next. And search and rescue was always on my mind. I invented a laser flare, which the Navy said was the best signal device in the world, but shining lasers at pilots wasn't very popular. So LED technology came along and outperformed basically the laser signal and did not have any of the negative issues about it. So we've, for 15 years, have been in the distress signal business, working with the Coast Guard. We've successfully adopted standards to replace pyrotechnic flares with LED signaling devices. That's coming up too. So in the marine and maritime market, the LED strobe light is just tremendous. It's tremendous thing.
Joe, while we're on the subject, do you want to maybe touch on some of your history as well?
Yeah, my background, I'm a SWARM member. SWARM stands for Search with a Aerial Multi-Rotor. It's a search and rescue group. I'm very happy to volunteer whenever that comes near our area. I'm willing to travel also. I'm currently the CEO of IR Distro, which is a thermal camera company. I'm also the CEO of Drone Services USA. So pretty much our cameras, we have a camera on the market, which is the IRD TC640, stands for IR Distro Thermal Camera 640. That is a 640 by 480 resolution camera, which is very high-end in the thermal camera market. There's no such thing as a 4K thermal camera. Pretty much how that equivalents out, it gives you over 307,000 pixels to identify what your object is. I'm a drone enthusiast. That's how I got into this whole thing. I knew that, drones, UAVs, whatever you like to call them, I saw the future, that once these platforms got very reliable and you start adding thermal cameras to them, it's going to be life-changing. And currently, military and police helicopters have thermal cameras installed on them. They're very old, outdated, and I couldn't imagine how much they paid for them at the time. Our product is, 5 ounces, around 2 inches square, doesn't take any power to run. And, I was interested in search and rescue. I currently work with the state of Michigan. If there's a Michigan Search and Rescue, I go out with them doing, training. We train the dogs to, acclimate them to the sound. They like to look up and, look at the drone thinking it's a bird. After you're out there a few times with them, their trainers teach them, it's okay that that's in the air with you. You do your job, it's going to do it. And it's a great thing. So pretty much my background, mainly interested in drones, the thermal cameras, and it all came together. The technology, a few years ago, to get a working system was difficult. Trying to integrate all the components together, there wasn't that much compatibility. And just recently, especially with your help, you can get a very high-end commercial industrial platform that is as reliable as can be.
Joel, quickly, do you mind expounding a little bit on the adventure in Louisiana? Just not full details, but give some perspective of what it is that you saw and how this need is so very great.
Yes, I just recently got back from Louisiana. We were called down there by a group of guys who they help farmers and agriculture. You get down to Louisiana, and it is hundreds of thousands of acres of farm fields. That's how they make their money down there. They make it a few cents at a time, obviously, but, by owning so many acres and, they're feeding America. So there is a feral pig problem down there. There are, between 6 and 8 million feral pigs in the United States. That's probably a low number. They reproduce very fast. They absolutely destroy property overnight. We get out there. They dig their nose in right after the planters go by, and they will eat each individual seed back out of the ground in the same night. So crops never come up. If the crops did come up in an area, they eat them all. They love vegetation. I believe it's 80 or 90% of their diet. 5 pigs can destroy 5 acres in a single night. So talking 8 million pigs, how many acres can they destroy in a night? It's a huge problem. And, some estimates are in the hundreds of, $120 billion a year in devastation, some reports will say. This comes back down to the insurance companies who are covering these farmers. So the insurance companies have major losses. The farmers themselves, if they're not insured, they could lose their entire yearly income, very, very fast. Invasive species, it's amazing how fast they can come in before you get a chance, and once you realize they're there, how do you take care of the problem? So we were down there doing research. How do the cameras, how can they help? And we were locating feral pigs with the IR distro camera.
Thank you.
Joe, I'd like to add something to that. When I was in Alaska doing the oil spill for Exxon, I had a big thermal camera mounted in my Twin Otter. It must have weighed 500 pounds. And your equipment does exactly the same thing that does, and it's invaluable to an oil company for oil spills. Oil warms up on the surface of the water, and it's a big contrast between the water temperature and the oil, and it picks it up immediately. You can do it in the daytime. We did it in the daytime, had no problem finding oil in marshlands and whatnot.
Yeah, thermal cameras do work 24 hours a day. It's not just night vision like a lot of people think. So, we go out into these fields, depending on the lens you put on. Our lenses are interchangeable. You simply unscrew them, screw a new one in, and you just screw it in until it's in focus. It takes only a few seconds. And then we could look out in these fields day or night at very long distances and identify, is that a deer out there? Is that a herd of pigs? If it is a pig can smell a human from 5 to 7 miles. It can smell food up to 25 feet underground. Some people claim. I think that's extreme. But they can smell a human. So you had to, first identify what was that way out there in the field, and then think of your plan, how you're going to get around to get closer to the herd. The herds are called sounders. We did come up on a herd that was nearly 20 hogs in one herd.
That's 100 acres.
In a single night.
That's the problem.
Well, what Drone Services is going to do, we're going to solve problems. That's the business that we're in, and we have the equipment to do it.
Absolutely. Okay, next question.
It's me next, actually, sorry. Yes, my background as well. I was thinking about this earlier, and if someone looked at my CV, you would think, no way is this guy doing drone stuff. There's nothing in his CV which says he should be good at doing this. I'm a trained biologist. I have worked in IT for most of my adult life, and only recently have I become a consultant in one of the big four consultancy firms. Now, the bit that's actually important, though, is I actually started with drones about 3 or 4 years ago, and like many people, started off as a hobby, flying foamy wings, and then moving into multi-rotors, and gradually advancing up the multi-rotors. Now, the epiphany for me happened a few, 2.5 years ago, I would say, and I was doing a bit of FPV work. Cameras weren't particularly great back then, neither were the transmitters, but they worked. And as a technical guy with an IT background, this sort of thing is actually quite good fun, and we're very adept at actually building stuff on this basis. And I was approached one day by a farmer and was asked if I had a camera on board my helicopter. And I said, well, actually, yes, I do. I said, well, I've lost 3 sheep. So out of the blue, a guy contacted me, and before I knew it, I was looking for sheep with my quadcopter. And we found the sheep, funnily enough. They'd been searching for about 3 hours, been unable to find it. I found it in about 15 minutes. I ran out of battery pack at the time, but we did find the sheep within 15 minutes. Now, then I realized, I thought, wait a minute, he's been out with quad bikes, he's been out with all his farm hands, he's been out with a sheepdog, he's been out with everything, and has not been able to find his sheep. And I found it in 15 minutes. Buried. They were all 3 of them stuck in a stream gully about a mile from the current location. So
there's a fairy tale in that.
Sorry?
I'm sorry. There's a fairy tale in that. I'm sorry. I thought you were finished.
Oh, no, sorry. So and that's how I got into drones from there. And it was that kind of point I realized we can actually use drones for things. They aren't just toys, they're tools. And at that point I decided that I can do something with this. And I've been working ever since then to build drones which are absolutely our tools, and good tools at that. And they are tools. They fit into workflow. They aren't an isolated technology. They have to work with people as well. And that's a very conscious thing. It's one I've taken from my consulting background, in that the workflow, you can have the best tools in the world, but if the workflow doesn't work, you're not going to get good use out of your tools. So we know it's very much a holistic approach. It's not just technology. It's how people use the technology. It's and how the technology can fit into existing workflows. So, and that's very much where I've been getting into this now. I've been lucky enough that with my IT background and my security background, I've been looking at what the things like the ProX can offer. Now, this kind of brings us neatly on to the next question, because the last question was, what is the direction of the drone industry, and are we spending enough in R&D to expand market share in that area? The short answer to that is yes, we are spending enough in R&D to expand into the areas that we want to. There is a conscious effort that we could spend more, but I'm very conscious that productivity is absolute focus first. It's unit sales and unit movements pay for everything else. Now, R&D, we have a spend in R&D, and we are looking at a number of technologies where we'll be going in the future. Now, I won't go into too much detail about everything that we're doing, but we are looking very much, the main driver of the R&D that we're looking at the moment is very much things like the ProX and the improvements and the refinements of our existing portfolio. So ProSearch and ProCargo will continue to evolve. We're looking at adopting some new carbon manufacturing technologies to give us a better power-to-weight ratio. As Joel already touched on earlier, flight time is absolutely crucial in these platforms, especially when you start to lift heavy weights. And, of course, ProCargo is looking at an 8-kilogram weight capacity for all of its units. Just as an aside, the 8-kilogram weight was chosen purely because it's the average weight of a 72-hour recovery pack. And it was one of the primary reasons I was invited to Nepal. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend. It was to be able to deliver these types of emergency packs to people in stranded areas. It's an absolute perfect application. It's a very versatile application, but it's a good application.
Can you convert that to pounds for people really quick?
I think it's 2.5. I think is the conversion rate.
2.2.
Yeah, it's 2.2.
So around 20. Okay. So around 20-pound payload that the ProCargo can actually carry, and with the payload dropper, it could take it to a location and drop it off.
Right.
So the applications for that would be, medical supplies, in a water runoff area. It might be a stream in the morning, and you come back in the afternoon, and it's fully impassable. You could take a rope or a cable or a survival suit and drop it on the other side so this person can be rescued. At large sporting events, you could drop a defibrillator and any type of medical device. We actually are working on a larger platform which could drop a wheelchair off somewhere if need be.
Yeah, and on the cruise ship, it'll be a man overboard device, ciphering or something. I mean, instantly deliver it to someone that fell off a cruise ship.
That's right. It's
absolutely.
I mean, the great thing about these things is it's we have, and this is where my software security side of things comes in. is that it's very well integrated into the flight controller. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to do autonomous drops of these particular cargoes. You can build entire missions into the flight controller, of which the payload function is one aspect of it. This is very similar to what Amazon have been touting for a while, that then we can do your parcel deliveries and stuff like this. Now, we can do this now. It's available now. It's not new. People have had this. It's been around. Amazon have kind of gone for the harder business model. They've gone for consumer deliveries in urban areas. Now, that's not an optimal model for use. So Pro Cargo is very much geared to things like disaster areas, landslides, floods, these types of things, where getting supplies to people stranded or to medical teams stuck in the field is extremely important. And one of the other aspects as well is a lot of people are that for conventional deliveries, it works as well. We have the business-to-business function. Not many people realize this, but many businesses are more than one office. And it is not uncommon for certain offices to only be 2 or 3 kilometers apart, but may incur like a 10 or 15 kilometer journey between these two offices, if there's a river in the way or a bridge or whatever it's going to be. And it's been demonstrated that we can actually do these types of things. And we've had customer contacts asking how we would be able to map a route out for them. And it's a much safer and a much more viable use of the technology than consumer product deliveries in urban areas. So,
can you explain what the word autonomous means for people?
Autonomous means that we, instead of a human flying the craft 100% of the flight, so the human takes off, the human flies all the way to the destination, and the human lands. Autonomous means we program it in, very much like a computer program. We feed it in and we press execute, and the drone will do it all by itself. So it takes off by itself, it navigates itself, and will land itself. And it will do anything else that you tell it to do in between. And it will do all of this.
This lowers the time frame for training. If a large corporation were to buy 100 of these, they can be trained a whole lot easier than having to learn how to fly the drone themselves.
That's right, and very much where this is all going is, and this is where I think it comes back to the point of where this is going is very much software driven. Now, we will see incremental improvements in airframes, in power trains, in props, and batteries, and these types of things. But these will be steps. If you want to see the leaps in advancement, you need to look at the software platform. And it's the autonomous side of things that are leading that just now. So all of the current vendors at the moment of flight controllers have some form of autonomous features built in. These are controllable from a tablet. So if you're familiar with how to use an iPad or an Android tablet, you can pretty much fly a drone. I mean, that's the sort of barrier to entry that it's getting to. There are also vendors building in enterprise-grade drone management platforms. So as well as being able to control one drone, they can control multiple drones at once. And the software is becoming so powerful now that they can now devise new routes for these drones to fly for particular missions, and they're also learning to work out which drones are best suited to which missions as well, and the software can do all that for you, and that all gets offloaded. So where we're going to see the big advances in the future is definitely in the software layer. Hardware will improve, that's inevitable, it will, but it's not going to improve at the same rate as the software. And that's very much why we're looking at products like the Pro X. The Pro X gives us the ability to stream HD video straight from the drone, live. It allows us to connect to enterprise cloud services for offloading, processing, and storage from the drone. So no more reliance on onboard storage. You can offload this to the cloud. And obviously, as the name implies, to get to the cloud, you need to have internet connectivity as well. We have already done a demonstration here where an operator in Great Britain was able to autonomously control and fly a drone with a tablet. The drone was based in Switzerland, 1,000 miles away. He was able to control, fly, and use the drone. He didn't have manual control, it was only autonomous, but it allowed him to perform an entire mission from 1,000 miles away. And it can be more than 1,000 miles. It's because you're on the internet, you can do it from anywhere. You could have done the same thing. So very much where this is going. Software is going to really improve what the drones are capable of doing. We've seen this already. We've seen this in 3DR, have a product called Solo. They have started to use this at a very small scale. They have built in some processing power using a second processor on the drone. They have a flight controller and then a second processor. This second processor runs software which allows the operator to get professional-grade video footage and effects. It manages the camera and it manages the flight controller. And what it's done is essentially removed one operator from the equation from professional video. And it's done this through software. So software is very much going to be the driver of where this is going in the immediate future. Now,
okay. Can you speak about... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say one of the other aspects we're going to look at is fuel cells. Is that one you're going to talk about? Or?
No, I was going to ask you to speak about 3D mapping and how beneficial
3D mapping.
it can be.
Okay. The 3D mapping is, this is also getting quite interesting because one of the use of things like the Pro Cargo is a good example, is as drone power increases, so the drones are becoming more powerful, they can lift more, they can carry bigger cargoes. Some existing technologies are shrinking in size and weight, and one of them is LiDAR. I assume that's what you're talking about, is the industrial scale LiDAR applications are now transportable via drone. You can now do 3D mapping, detailed high-resolution 3D mapping with LiDAR using a drone platform. You can do systematic scanning using autonomous programs already built into the flight controllers, and you can build a very high detailed 3D map of any of your locations. Now, you can add this to existing mapping services where high-resolution camera footage is used. And the next part, the bit that I've been talking to a few developers about is, as well as doing high-resolution mapping, we're also going to use signal detection within mapping. So at the moment, for example, search and rescue is a good example, and agriculture. Agriculture is another big consumer of high-resolution mapping. Infrared and on all bands, basically. But what that still involves is a lot of manual processing of what's going involved, especially with the search and rescue. If you're looking for a lost individual who was wearing a red jumper when he was lost, you're essentially looking for a red jumper. And you could have, or if it's a green jumper in a forest, you've got next to no chance of finding him. However, they have the algorithms which run things like signal detection. If you have a modern camera, you'll probably notice that it can do face recognition in real time. It's an extension of that type of model. And what that actually does is, and the Pro-X, this is where the Pro-X comes in, it can actually do that signal detection in real time with the power of the cloud, and it can do signal mapping into high-resolution mapping as well. So it's essentially doing not just face recognition, but any signal you choose to feed into it. It will try and recognize this in each of the high-resolution stills that it's scanning. You can also feed the mapping into the cloud as well in real time, So all the mapping adjustments and stitching that you need to do with high-resolution mapping can all be done in the cloud in almost real time, just by using the computing power that's available there. So there is no middleman anymore where you spend 2 or 3 hours waiting while the IT guy stitches the whole lot together and then gives you a map which you can use. It can be done in real time, and it's available on the web because it's all web connected. So as we can see, we're going to see more and more of this. The airframe will become simply a vehicle for the sensors and the operational programs that the individual or the company is wishing to run. So software is definitely where we're going to see the big leaps. And the bit I was going to come on to was there is one technology to watch on the hardware side of things, and it's to do with the batteries. Now, the Achilles heel of all drone technology is the battery life at the moment is very limited. We have, for example, in the Pro Search, we did make a lot of optimizations into the airframe, which allows us to maximize our battery life. And to the much annoyance to our competitors, of course, but that's beside the point. The key advances, I think, will be in how we use our energy capacity in these platforms. Now, the number of technology we're looking at, one that has a lot of promise is fuel cells. There is a lot of scope within fuel cells to give us the power that we need and the endurance that we want out of our airframes. So the target, 2 or 3 hours worth of airtime is what we're really looking for. Fuel cells can get us there, but not today. There are a number of technical reasons why some of the fuel cells are not really up to the task yet. They will get there. The advancements are coming. What we will see in the short to medium term is a use of the hybrid model. Just like you get hybrid cars today where you have battery backup to a petrol engine, you will have a LiPo backup to a fuel cell engine. That will come to drones in the near future. I'm predicting within 2 years that technology will be available. It will not be available in multi-rotors. It will be available in winged platforms only, and only when the issues with fuel cell technology are resolved will we start to see it in multi-rotors. So that's where we're going to keep our eyes on. So that's us, really.
Yeah, a very simple use for this 3D mapping would be a construction site. You could fly over, map it, and say that there is 15,000 yards of dirt, and the earth movers and bulldozers can push 100 yards an hour. And it will give you a very simple calculation on how long it's going to take that pile of dirt to disappear if you're going to go put a roadway through or something. So, all these intense mathematical calculations from years ago, now, within a few minutes can be, the algorithm will shoot it through.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing in the clouds that is really useful as well. I mean, and this is part of my part of the stuff I've been doing in IT up till now is looking exactly for cloud utilization. You can just throw so much computing power at any sort of data set that you can obtain from a drone or from any particular aspect, and you can compile it in near real time and get a response back almost immediately as to what these are doing. Now, the advantage of LiDAR is, of course, it's pretty much instantaneous. You run a sweep and you have all the data you need in pretty much one sweep. There's not a lot of backwards and forwards survey-style techniques that you need to do. Some environments need it, of course, but not all of them. But LiDAR is especially useful for that. So, yeah, it's going to be a nice technology to watch. Another thing to watch as well is, as part of my consultancy coming out, is as well as the software advancing, the software use advancing within drones, we're going to start to see more security and safety stuff being built into the drones themselves and the requirement. Now, Jim's already touched on some of the stuff that may be coming our way very soon, especially with things like beacons and stuff like this, but we there are other stuff as well. For example, there are the control mechanisms for drones. Now, this may be mandated by law, but more likely it's going to be driven by market forces, is going to be security. So you'll be looking at encryption end-to-end of all drone control and all data sets. So all sensor outputs, all control mechanisms, all of these sort of things are all going to start to be encrypted very soon. And there are a number of reasons that's going to be coming out. Going to be coming out quite soon. Again, encryption is very hard to do on traditional drone technology, but it's extremely easy to do once a drone becomes internet enabled. So we're going to start to see a lot more of these types of things coming out. Drone security is an issue. Some countries are paranoid about it. Some really don't care at all. It does really depend on what sort of country you're dealing with at the time. So it's one to keep an eye on as well. But it's definitely something that we're going to be building into the Pro X is end-to-end encryption, especially if the customer is going to be demanding it in the near future. So we're going to be building that in from day one.
Yeah, one other thing I'd like to mention too is cost of ownership. On the cameras, you might think $6,500 is a lot for the camera, but it's a very modular design where you simply unscrew a quarter 20 screw, and you can take this indoors and use it for home inspection. You can find a clogged plumbing pipe inside your home. You can put it on an ATV in complete darkness. You could put it on a boat. It's multiple uses. Make the actual cost of ownership completely justifiable for the multiple amount of applications it can be used for.
And cost of ownership is actually is a valid point, and it applies to all of the technology that we use. Is that the customers are very conscious of cost of ownership, and it's very much in our minds that we're making sure that the cost of ownership is minimized, and at least the value of the service that the customer is getting is exactly what they should be getting. So,
and the amount of uses that that search and rescue platform can also be used for power line inspection, can also be used, you can use it in 20 different applications, so it's very easy for someone to get their money back out of these. The police department could borrow one from the fire department, and it will do 90% of their capabilities. Let's move on really quick. Tell people about the shareholders, update them. I know we've been on here a while. Just want to make sure everybody hears the information they need.
Absolutely. A couple of points here. First and foremost, I am happy to inform everyone that I have finally reconciled the NOVO list. All of those who are eligible to receive shares will, in the next few weeks, those who have not received their certificates up to this point from the last year distribution with PBEC, will, in the next couple of weeks, be receiving information related to their certificate. Now, based on the number of email that we have received, and there have been quite a number with those listening bearing in mind that there are approximately 1,250 shareholders, it's up in the air what the demands or what the desire of the shareholder basis is. So what I am proposing to the company, and we will discuss this at length tomorrow, and I suppose have a vote on it, that we give it to the shareholders to vote on. Some are requesting a redemption. Some are requesting one common share per C series. So what I am proposing to the company is that we send out to the shareholders a vote card. And once you'll have a time limit on when they can be returned to the company. Once we have gathered all the cards, we will tally the vote. And if the numbers indicate that it's a one-for-one share, then that's what we decide on, or redemption, whichever the decision is that the shareholders make. This is what I'm proposing. Again, I'm going to pose all the details to the Board of Directors tomorrow, and once we make a decision on when they're going to vote on it, we will advise the shareholders, and if they do agree, then we will get the cards out here in the very near future so the shareholders can make their votes. Now, with regard to the recent trading activity and the messages that places such as E-Trade have been giving shareholders, it is not true that the company or the transfer agent has failed to deliver the shares to E-Trade. This is absolutely not true. As a matter of fact, the TA does not hold a single share that is in E-Trade's name. These shares were held by the DTCC. We went around and around with the DTCC for several weeks in our attempt to have them provide us with any information that we needed to ensure that this was completed. And we were told there's nothing else to do. As of such and such date, it is fully eligible, and they have received all they needed from the company. After Attorney Kogan and I pursued this and pursued it, we finally received a response from the DTCC on Monday, or the TA did rather, on Monday, that they are sending out the shares that are owned by E-Trade and a couple of more brokers to the TA. They were delivered to the TA processed them the same day and sent them out and confirmed that they arrived at the DTCC yesterday. So the DTCC has in their possession all of the shares, which is roughly, it's a little bit more than half the float. That is how many shares, how many shareholders have been unable to have any activity whatsoever with their accounts, with the former shares, the former PBEC shares. So they do have them in their possession, and Trade has been advised of that. The TA and I both have been in contact with E-Trade today and have advised them that they have confirmed, the DTCC have confirmed that they have the shares, and they are to proceed post-haste and reconciling the accounts for the shareholders. Again, the corporate action was approved on the 28th, I believe, by FINRA. We met all of the requirements. The TA, within a couple of days, provided all of the necessary information to the DTCC. The stalling was not a result of any failure on our part or the TA's part. So my recommendation would be to anyone whose accounts are not updated, say tomorrow, that you contact your brokerage, and if they tell you that they do not have the shares, you can let them know that you have confirmed with the company that the shares have been delivered to the DTCC, they have been released, and the TA has confirmed that too. And if anyone needs it in writing, just send an email to IR, and we will forward you the email confirmation that they have been advised of. That's really about it. We will, again, I'm going to close it to the company tomorrow so they can take a vote on it, and if they approve it, we will send out the cards so that the shareholders can let us know what they want to do, whether you want to redeem the certificates for the 20 cents or you want a one-for-one for the common stock. It's entirely up to you. You make the decision. And that's my input for this conversation.
Great. Jim, any final words?
Keep shining. We're in it for the long run. We're not in it for a quick dollar.
Absolutely.
And Ewan?
Oh, I think I've said quite enough today.
Right.
Yes, I'm glad to be able to take part in this call, and look forward to taking part in future calls soon.
Yes, and that's something, too, that the shareholders should know. We are going to do this on a regular basis. We're currently looking at a schedule to set up, and we will keep the shareholders informed by way of the website as well as the Drone Services approved social media sites. But we will have regular conference calls with our shareholders, and we will keep you abreast as things move along.
Great. The last thing I want to mention, Ewan had mentioned LiDAR. I just want to explain what that means. LiDAR is light detection and ranging. Pretty much its application can be, it can hold the drone 4 feet above the ground, and you can push forward on the stick, on the controller, and if the ground elevation raises or lowers, it will follow it, so it won't crash into the hill in front of you. It's a foolproof technology, pretty much.
Yes,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say it's based on lasers, really. It's very accurate and very useful. So yeah, it's quite cool. Yep.
Yep. And the last thing I want to mention there are many emerging markets popping up on a daily basis. This is new technology. I don't want to mention everything we're going after, but an hourly basis new things that our drones are totally capable of. It is an application people are looking for a solution for, and we're going to be pursuing those full speed ahead.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you very much, and thank you, shareholders, for joining us. And thank you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll speak with you soon.
Thanks so much.
And don't forget to look at North American Survival Systems and get yourself a strobe light.
Yes, absolutely.
And what is your web address, Jim?
North American Survival Systems.com.
Great.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll speak with you soon.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.